Welcome to the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, discussing all things audiobooks with the authors that write the stories and the narrators that perform them. Brought to you by Viviana, Enchantress of Books.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Audiobook Lovin Podcast. Today, I am chatting with author Pepper North. Welcome to the Audiobook Lovin Podcast. Pepper, how are you doing today?
I am wonderful. Thank you for including me today.
I know. I'm excited to chat with you. We're both in Florida and experiencing some not so fun, aka basic summer weather here. For those that are not aware, summer is our wet season. And right around this time, which is about 3:30 in the afternoon, we get our rainstorms coming in. So hopefully the internet behaves itself. How is that internet over there for you?
You know, it works pretty well here. We usually, it rocks and rolls, of course, during the storm sometimes, but it's pretty steady. So I think we'll be okay.
Okay, good. Yeah, I've had extra surge protectors everywhere because I've gotten hit by lightning and then it goes bye-bye and then other things occur. But I do digress. Why don't we start by having you tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been writing and how you got started?
Well, I started in 2017. I am a little different maybe than a lot of different authors that are out there in that I didn't grow up thinking that I was going to be an author. That was never anything on my radar. So I wrote a book for myself just for fun in 2017 and put it out on Amazon just as a lark, thinking no one's ever going to buy this. I didn't tell my husband. I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell any of my friends. And I watched it sell, thinking, what in the world is happening? So 60 days later, when Amazon was going to send me my first paycheck, I had to tell my husband what in the world I had been doing because a chunk of money was going in to the bank account and he would have no idea where it was coming from. Why was Amazon paying me? So he didn't know for 6 months what my pen name was. Now he actually works for me and we travel all over the world doing book conferences and having a great time talking books and meeting readers. And this is absolutely my best life ever. So I've got about 90 books out there, probably a little more since 2017. So I'm a quick writer and absolutely love books, and being able to share stories with people is like a dream.
I love how you were sneaky about it. And yeah. But I mean, just I love that you took that chance. You're like, you know what? I'm going to put it out there. Best case scenario, it sells a copy or two, right? That's usually the idea. And then worst case scenario, it's still the book that I wrote for me. So no problems.
Exactly. And, I think it's a good reminder for everybody that why not try something? I mean, I was putting it out under a pen name. Nobody would know that it was me, and just go for it. Sometimes you just have to take a chance in life, and it definitely has worked for me.
Awesome. So the genre that you currently write in, can you tell us a little bit about that? And, what is it about that genre that you love so much?
I will be glad to. Yes. The genre now is exploding. There are so many people that are flocking to it, and the readership is amazing. In 2017, when I started writing age play books or daddy books, there wasn't a huge amount of people that were out there. And in fact, I wrote my first book simply because there were short little scenes that were out that were available to be purchased, but not a complete story. And I wanted that whole story kind of thing. So daddy books or age play books are a kink in the BDSM spectrum, of course, adult only. And it's a form of dominance and submission. Some would probably argue it's a pretty deep form of dominance and submission. And it can involve everything from being kind of a bratty teenager to being all the way to almost babyish. And it's simply giving yourself over into control of someone else.
Okay. Now, I know there's always been, when it comes down to the BDSM genre, there's two camps in the sense of how to what level of truthness there is to the story, especially because, when 50 Shades of Grey first came out, everybody was like, oh, we did not know that was a kink, or oh, I did not know there was such a thing as a BDSM situation. And unfortunately, there's a lot of authors that did not do the research. Now, I'm not saying you have to live the life, from that perspective, but how much research do you do for your stories?
It's a really good point. I mean, you want to be sure that you are portraying people correctly and characters correctly. And so you have to really understand kind of the psychology of why people would be attracted to this. What I find, the vast majority of readers that I have that read daddy books are people that are so super stressed in this incredibly fast-paced lifestyle that we all have, that the idea of having somebody else that does everything for you is supremely attractive. And so you take that backwards to then how does it feel if you're in that activity? And what would you be doing, and what kind of ways would someone take care of you, and would they show you that they love and cherish you? And all of those things go together to form a story. I'm a real pantser. I never know where my stories are coming from. Pantser, for people that don't know, means that when you sit down to write, you don't have an outline, you just write the story. And I am lucky that my characters pretty well tell me their background and information about them, so that I can craft a story that hopefully resonates with everyone and rings true.
Yeah, thank you for that, because I know that there's individuals that when they first read a book that includes some kink, sometimes they don't realize that they had a kink, and then they might use what they read as some form of how-to guide.
Exactly. Yes.
So when certain books came out and they were doing things not how it should be done, a lot of people in the community were a little upset because it was dangerous. And, physically and of course, mentally and emotionally, because there is a dynamic there that has to be established, along with consent and boundaries and all that stuff. So when it comes down to that, those authors that really do the research are precious to me.
Yes. Because you do have a responsibility in what you're sharing, to make sure that you're not leading people into whether it be emotional danger or physical danger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I take this the equivalent of if this was a cookbook and your recipe made people sick, you would not be allowed to continue to write,
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's where that comes to play. Are there any other genres, even within BDSM, that you have not written in that you're wanting to or thinking about writing in?
I have really settled on this kind of as my lane. I always joke at book conferences that I can daddy up just about any kind of book that's out there. So if you give me, any kind of particular format that you like, I can pretty well figure out how to slide a daddy in there. So I have soldier daddies, I have sorcerer daddies, I have alien daddies, I have contemporary. I've got my first series that came out had medical play in it. It was all different patients of one particular doctor. And that series was so popular that there are 34 books in that, and I'm not allowed to ever stop writing it. So really, you can just kind of sneak it in. I've written a dark daddy, sci-fi daddy. I mean, there's just all sorts of different ways you can do it. It's a very flexible kind of genre to be able to use the same type of dominant and submissive relationship, however it is. You could have shifter daddies. You could have whatever daddies. I mean, it's really fun to write.
So you've pretty much already kind of covered all those little other subgenres within the PNR and the sci-fi and the aliens, with still being able to keep and maintain daddy, BDSM, kink in the storyline. That's great.
And I call them daddy books. That's just an easy way to call them. But I have about every combination of daddy, mommy, whether it's the male dominant, female dominant relationship, to whether the littles are male or female. I can do about up to 3 people. And then after that, I start losing track of arms and legs during important times. So I just stop there. So, but it's an interesting dynamic to read everywhere. Mm-hmm. So, one of my favorite books that I have is a mommy little boy book. And it is a soldier that came back damaged from war, and a lady that takes care of him, which is an amazing relationship between the two of them. So sometimes it's very touching, meaningful, important relationships, as well as being, entertaining and loving.
Mm-hmm. I love that you have included female doms in that, more alpha role as well. I think a lot of times I don't see a lot of those in romance. There are a lot of more males as a dom versus dominatrixes. So that's fantastic.
One of my goals is to create a book where everyone can see themselves in that character. So I try to include a variety of different ethnicities, of ages, of sizes, of shapes, all of those things, so that somebody, when they pick up a book, can go, oh, this could be me, which is fun.
That's again fantastic, because I think it's something that a lot of people have wanted, and there just isn't anybody out there that's writing it, and or it's very limited, and it may not be within the kink that they're specifically wanting to check out.
Right. And of course, I'm just me. I'm sitting here. I've got my own experiences and no one else. So when I'm writing outside of what my lane of life would particularly be, I enjoy having a reader or someone that I know that fits kind of that profile, that I can bounce questions off of, that I can run the book by, to make sure that I am doing what I want to do in creating a story, and not adding anything else in that would distract from that story. So I'm very lucky to have readers that are willing to support me and, look at these. When I approach a reader and I'm like, would you read this for me? Because I want to make sure I've got this right. I have never had anyone say, no, I don't want to read this. They're like, this is all about me. This is the best, so it is fun to also pull other people in and realize that you need to do that just to make sure everything is correct.
Oh yeah, no, being included from whether it's a, cultural background, if it's that, inclusive of, anybody that has different neurodivergencies, again, everybody, and this inclusive of the different kinks, because usually you see the one type of kink that's very popular. And so knowing that there's other ones out there, people will be like, oh, okay, let's look at that. And oh my God, I can identify better with this, book, because I'm in it of sorts,
Right.
Yeah. So that's important. So thank you for that as well. Yeah. And as a pantser, how do the ideas come to you? Because if you, from that perspective, because a lot of people think like, oh, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to outline some stuff. So you can already have an idea of what you're going to write about. But as a pantser, how does that work for you?
That's a really good question. And I wish I had a cut answer for it, but really I sit down and I've got an idea of who my characters are. And I know that I'm going to happy ever after. I don't want to believe that anything other than that exists in the world. So it's just the journey that's going to take them from where they are when we start to them being together at the end. And I just start writing and it happens. Every once in a while, I'll think, okay, so we've got to have something here that maybe is going to test them a little bit. And so I'll design something else to go in there to have them have a hurdle that they need to get over to really cement their relationship. But most of the time, it just kind of happens.
Yeah, I think a lot of stuff sometimes can just flow, as the saying goes. But at the same time, I also know sometimes the characters can be particular or problematic. Do you hear the characters in your head as voices, or some people say, "Oh, I see them. I see like pictures," or is it just what comes out of the pen?
It's just really whatever I'm typing that comes out, and I know that if I am so into the story that I'm like crying during a really important scene, I know that all my readers are going to cry at that point as well. So I just try to pour all of those feelings into whatever it is that scene needs to have, and then go on.
You authors love to make us cry.
We do. Yes. If I can make you cry, then I know I've got you, because you are feeling exactly what I want you to feel, and exactly what I felt as I was writing that scene.
Yeah, I am usually not a crier. And I remember it was Sasha Summers, who's one of her books was the first one to make me cry. And she's also a good friend. So she knew this about me, that I'm not a crier. I mean, there's been stuff thrown at me that have made people crash down and cry. And I'm like, it's emotional. It's really sad, but no tears. And it's not that I'm cold-hearted or anything, because again, I will cry at a Hallmark commercial. Folgers, dude, you guys are awful. Anyways, but when her book made me cry, and I told her, she did the most loudest, heinous, evil laugh. I was like, you suck. So
Gotcha.
Yeah. So other author friends have now learned that, okay, she doesn't usually cry. So if we make her cry, okay, we got her. And I'm like, oh, you all are bad. I got to start giving you guys mugs that say author, tears of the readers or listeners in this case.
There are some people that have, like the ornate jars on their desks that are, my readers' tears or things like that, that they just sprinkle into different things for fun.
Fantastic. So you've been writing these stories and you have all these books out now. What made you decide to have them be placed into audio?
That's a really good question. When I first started, like I was telling you, there weren't a whole bunch of daddy authors that were out there writing. And as I wrote more books and interacted more with readers, I learned just how many people out there really enjoy audiobooks and wanted to listen to books on audio as well. And so I just started very gradually putting one book after another. I found an amazing narrator that was just starting her career as well. And she took this series that has 34 books in it and started recording those. And all the characters kind of interact as they go together. And between the two of us, we were able to kind of come up with distinct characters that she could go back and say, oh, this is Charlotte's voice. And she could pull that out and do that. And they just kind of grew as the audiobooks went out. They became more and more popular as people listened to them and enjoyed them. And you had to have all of them. So, you wanted this one and that one and all of those, because you were going to hear those same characters again as you went on. And she did a masterful job putting them all together, which I really appreciated, because I didn't have a clue what I was doing when we first started.
Yeah. And that's Nicole Renee, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Her name. Yeah. No, it's really daunting when there's so many books in a series. I'm always, when I start, I'm going, okay, Vivi, just take it a book at a time. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And then you end up binging it and you're going, dude, I'm almost done. When's the next book coming out? So I can totally understand where your listeners were like, yeah, okay, there's 30 books, where are the rest of them and all that fun stuff. Yeah.
Right. And in that series, we chose the most popular books to start with. And then as I have written other series past then we have those whole series then recorded in audiobook. So it's been kind of a gradual build of everything. To go back and record all 90 of my books is just an overwhelming job to be able to do. But once you get started on them, they are addictive to keep putting.
Yeah, and the listeners are voracious, and they will devour the series and the books, and they're just like wanting more.
Yes, and I've had some really funny stories of people that are listening to my books as they're driving down the road. And,
oh gosh.
They'll stop to go through the drive-through window and hit the thing to start it again. And all of a sudden, all the people at McDonald's are listening to a specific scene that they probably should not be listening to. And it really is fun, the things they share with me that happen during the audio.
Yeah, I tend to have to disable my Bluetooth at times when I get into my car because automatically it's already set up for that. And for whatever reason, I don't even touch it, and it'll start playing a book that I have on there, even though I usually don't listen on my phone or have it set up that way where you have to manually click on it because of that same reason. We've been caught in important scenes in public, and you do not want that.
Yes, it is very true.
Mm-hmm. So as you continue to write and have these books come out in audio, how involved have you been as far as casting and thinking about future books and who you're going to be casting in for the narrators, and if they're going to be single narrated, dual narration, maybe duets?
And that's one thing that I need to do some more research, some more schooling for myself on all the different possibilities that are going to be out there. This year I am going to the Allure book conference, and I am really looking forward to seeing all the different possibilities. I have one book that's in a dual narration. That's one of my dark romances. It's not really a daddy. It is, but I couldn't make it a daddy, so it's a daddy without the word daddy in it. Mm-hmm. If you understand what I mean. Dare darker. It still has that same kind of sentiment, but it's not quite as in your face as some of the other ones are. But and I loved that dynamic of hearing the male narrator and the female narrator interacting as if the conversations were, going on, which is awesome. So that I'm looking forward to going to the conference and finding out just where the cutting edge line is now for narration in audiobooks and where I need to be starting to focus in the future. I have a series that I'm writing with another author, Paige Michaels, which is Little Cakes, and it's all based out of a cupcake bakery. And we are getting a lot of requests to have those be on audio. She has a narrator that she normally uses. I have a narrator that I normally use, and we've just kind of decided that we're going to look for someone new that's going to be our narrator for that series. So that's another thing that I'm, keeping my eye out kind of when we get to Allure in September is, picking up some names, interacting with some people. I had one narrator when I very first started that was awful, just as unpleasant could be. And I pride myself on being able to get along with a lot of different personalities, and I'm a normally very positive person. And finally, I just asked him, I'm like, do you want out of this contract? And he's like, I'll send my letter in. You send your letter in. Oh my God. I was a little bit in shock there. So, I want to be sure. Nicole Renee is a dream to work with. She is just so professional and wonderful. And I want to find someone that will be able to read those little cake books for Paige Michaels and I, and be that kind of wonderful personality to interact with, professionalism to take care of those, while Nicole Renee is still doing all of my Pepper North books. So it's, there's a balance. I put out so many books, I definitely can overwhelm people. So it's good to maybe divide and conquer a little bit.
Well, I will say that the Allure event is perfect for you then for multiple facts. Obviously, connecting with the listeners, and because it is a specific only, I think this is the first one that focuses on audiobooks. Yeah. And there's also going to be production companies there, others that work with production companies. So if the house itself is not there, you'll have some of the other people that can provide you with some info, and a bunch of narrators. And unfortunately, like with any business, they are assholes, and those that have huge egos but the majority of the folks are very kind and very nice and very professional. And usually, you can get some suggestions and ideas from listeners, but also, working with some other people that have been in the industry, even if it's not as a narrator, will also help you with that line of things sometimes, because fans are great. I love them. I'm one as well, but they only see one side of things, which is the voice. And the rest of us that work in the industry see the other side.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the best thing is at Allure, they're offering all sorts of classes for the narrators, but for the authors as well. So I really do feel like I'm going to get a lot of information just from attending. And I get to hang out with Nicole Renee, who's just a dream. I enjoy spending time with her. We've met several times. So
I'm looking forward to meeting you guys. Yeah, there's going to be a bunch of panels, including one on marketing that I'm sitting in for how to market your audiobooks, because I think sometimes authors forget that that's a format that you all have sometimes, and you're like pimping out the ebook and pimping out the paperback. And then they're like, oh yeah, and the audio is available too. And I'm going, no, do not do that.
Believe me, any bit of information I can glean about how to reach more listeners is wonderful.
Yeah.
My audiobooks do well, but they can always do better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Need to get together with the rest of the panel and figure out what we're going to be focusing on. But I have a bunch of ideas, and because it's what I do, and there's so many fun ways to do it, because it's work, but working should be fun. So
yes.
Yeah. So when you're not working and attending these Allure events and other conventions, what do you do for fun?
Oh my goodness. I'm a writing machine. So I write every single day, but I do play hooky every once in a while.
Good for you.
Yes. Since we've moved to Florida, and even before Florida, I love golf. I love yoga. I love spending time with my husband and doing some vacationing and things like that. So all of those things are fun you've got to enjoy life as well. I have wonderful neighbors here, and we all get together and have great times together. So, you just have to maintain a balance, I think, of between work and play, and feeding your soul as well as
Yep. Sorry, you broke up there. Feeding your soul and feeding your
pocketbook. I'm sorry. Is what I said. Yeah.
No, it's okay.
Must have been the lovely rain going through or something. Who knows?
Oh yeah, it happens. It's okay. That's why I'm like, nope. What'd you say? Okay, got it. Pocketbook. Yeah, it's that work-life balance is very important, and as many will do advocate for it. We just sometimes don't follow it because life. So I'm glad that you do that. Yeah, no, lots of fun things to do here outdoor wise. When you trying to beat the heat too, but first thing in the morning is always nice, even in the summers.
Yes, it is definitely true. We came from Kansas City, And everybody's like, oh, you're going to die in Florida. And really, we're finding the heat and the humidity is pretty much the same. It's just a little hotter here longer. But other than that, it's great. And we have no snow, which is the best thing ever.
Yeah. I know my husband is originally from Connecticut and he would love to move back north. And I always tell him, I go, we would have to make sure that the house is in a driveway that is not at a steep angle, and that I can potentially work from home and have snow days for myself, because I am a born and raised native Floridian. And while I'm sure I will learn and conquer it, I may still not want to do it.
No.
Is drive in the snow. So
not at all. No, I don't miss that at all.
Yeah, I hear that a lot when it comes down to people that move down. Well, that's why we call them snowbirds when we get them for, long stints during the winter. So we get them. They can stay away and get to enjoy beaches and pools and stuff like that. And then you're like, okay, I see the draw. I see it. Yeah.
Yes.
You work with words all day long and you write plenty of them. So what's your favorite word? Separate from curse word, because that's the second part of that question.
This is really funny. My degree was in French and Spanish. So I've always been a real wordy, and I don't have any particular training in English, but because I've studied so many grammatical systems for both French and Spanish, then I kind of put things to, I have a little more insight maybe than somebody that just comes without having any background at all. But my absolute favorite word, and I have no idea why, is the French word for grapefruit, which is pamplemousse. And it just is so much fun to say, and I just love the way it sounds. And that's just, it's just been my word forever. So pamplemousse is my word.
Yeah, that's how it kind of fill the mouth, and how you have to move your tongue, pamplemousse.
It is so funny. Poor Nicole Renee. Every restaurant I have has a French name, and people have Spanish dishes that they're eating and all sorts of different things. Those languages keep weaving their way back in there, and she'll say, how do you say this? And
oh, that is so awesome.
All that. She does a lot of research. But
yeah, there was one author that I was working with, and they had some French in it. And the narrators had they've done it before with accents and stuff like that, but not actual phrases.
Right.
And so the author got someone that does speak French to, little MP3 files of the words and how it's said. And there was one word, and I'm going, I know how to say that. And I know what that means. Yes. Because it's also very similar to how it's said in Spanish. And it was like in Spanish is yogur, which is yogurt, and in French is I'm gonna kill it now.
York,
yeah, like York, and so stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I know that one. I was so proud.
Yeah. It's fun. Yeah, I love words. They're just really interesting. In English, I love to squeeze in kind of whimsical words, skedaddle, or, all those different things that maybe you haven't heard for a while. I love putting things in there and seeing how they resonate with readers. Sometimes those words are just the absolute perfect one to go into a story.
Oh yeah. And I have a friend that anytime I'm DMing him or whatever, we're talking, he'll say something funny and I'm like, blah, 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 or whatever. And then he'll reply back. I think it was this morning. He said one thing and I said something like, no, dude, that's a drink. And he goes, I know it's a drink, Dingleberry. And I'm going, I love you.
Yes. Yes.
Those little words like Dingleberry and, skedaddle and stuff like that. It's those are fun.
Bamboozled.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love them. Yes. It's just fun. The language is a fun thing to play with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a lot of people that are not bilingual, I think sometimes miss out, because while English can be very pretty and have very whimsical words, there's also a little bit of a limitation when it comes to how you can express yourself, because once you know Spanish, oh dear Lord, the things you can say. And there's like different levels of being upset and different levels of how you emotionally feel attached to someone, from I like you to I love you. But in English, that's basically the two options that you have, or I adore you. That might be another level. But in Spanish, and I think even in a lot of the other Romance languages, there are different levels. And those are always fun.
The emotion that's packed into certain words has great meaning. Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I love that you add those in there. And do you ever add some of that stuff just to see about Nicole, seeing she can do it? Because I know some authors, you all do
a challenge. Let's do it. No, I don't. But that would be a really good story. I should start cultivating that to try to throw something in there for her. No,
a lot of authors will do that with their narrators. Either add an accent, just a throwaway accent that you're like has not ever been done in the book series before, or one that is so obscured. And then the same thing with some of the words, and it's like, really okay, love, I got you, hold my beer,
I'm sure that does make it fun as a narrator to have something unique that you get to pull out and try a little bit. That's fun.
Yeah, plus also conversational with the authors when you have that relationship of saying, really, woman? But
I'm with you. That is one of those things. You've got to find your people when you're involved in all these projects, so that you trust them and they trust you, and you can have fun doing it, because really life is way too short to be extremely serious about everything.
Yeah, exactly. Not 100% with you there. So on that note, what is your favorite curse word?
Ooh, I am the world's worst cusser. My mother was a second grade teacher. We're not allowed to cuss at home. And I just never grew up using any type of curse words at all. So when I get into a situation where I have to, like the very first fight, and really probably the only fight my husband and I ever had, he was just being a total jerk, and I could not come up with anything to call him. It was the most frustrating situation ever. I think I finally ended up calling him a butthole, and that was like the worst thing I could think of to come up with. It's just fun. So I fail this assignment totally. It's just not one that comes into me. And when I write, if there's a damn in my book, that's pretty hardcore. You never know.
Interesting.
It's just not part of my mindset. It's funny.
Oh my goodness. I love how we have all our little things, there's different little quirks, little things that we do that we don't do in our, when it comes down to you guys as the authors and these stories. That's fantastic. I love it. Sometimes, I can use fuck as an adjective, pronoun, and verb and all that fun stuff. But I also sometimes know that authors will use certain words and even some scenes as fillers. And that's where I'm like, yeah, no, dude, don't do that. And so it'd be you can get creative on those too. I used to have an author that was writing a holiday series. And so each holiday had like a heroine and a hero and stuff like that. And for Christmas, the elf was the heroine, and it was like peppermint sticks. And,
how fun is that?
Yeah, like fudgesticles.
Something in a theme. I love it.
It was so cute. Because then the hero started messing with her. But anyways.
I love that. It's fun.
It was fun. Yeah. One of the things I do love playing with our guests is getting to know you type of game, and just also to kind of see how tricky you all are. And I should know this by now that you all can be pretty tricky, but I still do it. It's okay. Is to play Two Truths and a Lie, where you tell us 3 things about yourself and one is a lie, and we have to figure out which one that is. And the listeners do play along. I'm just going to go with that because otherwise it's kind of sad. But anyways, so why don't you go ahead and tell us your 3 things, and we will try to figure out which one's the lie.
Okay. I almost lost my left hand during COVID following a dog bite. I consider myself to be a typical author type, and I get embarrassed listening to my stories on audio.
See, you tricky there, because 2 are book related and one's the dog thing and has okay. I want to say the lie is losing the left hand, but almost losing the left hand.
It is only because it was a cat bite.
See?
I almost lost my hand because of a cat bite. So if anybody ever gets bit by a cat,
you
go immediately and get antibiotics, because it was bad news. But no, definitely I'm not that typical author type. We've kind of talked about that. First off, I don't know a stranger. I can talk to anybody, and a lot of authors seem to be very more
introverted
quiet types, more introverted types. Yeah, that's just kind of their world that they enjoy and feel comfortable in. And I'm pretty happy in about every situation ever, except for like the floor is lava. That would be bad. But and then it is so super true. The very first time I had to go through and listen to the audio tracks that Nicole Renee had made for me, I was like, holy heck, did I really write this? You
all are shocked when this happens. I think the majority of you are in that camp, by the way.
Oh, is that right? Well, good. That makes me feel better. That's not just me. Somehow listening to it, and maybe that's the total allure of audiobooks, is that it makes it seem so much more real than just reading it off of a page. Maybe there's a little dulling of the sensation when you're reading it from the page versus having it drummed into your brain. I don't know.
It's a lot more personal, I think, because they're in our earbuds and we can kind of hear the emotion, and someone else is saying it versus what we think in our heads might be how it's being said. And so that's where it's a little more like real, and you're going, oh my God.
Right.
Yeah, but a lot of y'all are like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like shocked. That's what I wrote. I'm like, yeah, no, duh, you wrote the book.
Yes. Yes. And, that will be an interesting conversation to have with different narrators of, is there a type of book that you just cannot read? Because there are some scenes I write that are, I am crying desperately every time I read this section of the book. And I have warned Nicole Renee, do whatever you have to do, but this is going to kill you to read this with a straight expression without getting into this. And to be able to do what narrators do is an amazing feat. I just can't imagine. I couldn't do it.
No, well, that's why they're the professionals, and they've gotten coaching, they have experience, because they can portray those emotions. And even moments where, the heroine might say something that completely cracks everybody up, but the hero is pissed off about it, and they having to not laugh is, or the opposite, where someone's crying and it's really emotional, how they can put that little in the tone of their voices, and how we know that they're laughing as a character, not as the narrator talking, is just like chef's kiss. And
pure skill.
Yeah,
pure skill. Yes. Yep.
And it takes time to learn it. And some people are God-given talents. I'm not taking that away from anybody, but there are certain things too that they, the benefit of getting coaching, whether it's dialect or the acting side of things, or even heck, some of the business stuff, because sometimes, authors and narrators forget you are your business. And right. So, tax season, tax season, return on investments, all that fun stuff. And it's, and the listeners can tell when you're also phoning it in. And especially those who have been around a lot, or even those that know the narrator, that have been listening to the narrators a long time. And we're going, you weren't really into this one because you phoned it in, or were you tired, boo?
Yes.
So it's important to have those professionals. And when you're writing those scenes, you also want it to portray the proper way, so right. Your listeners can enjoy it. So yeah. You'll have a fun time at Allure with all the information. It will be fun. And also the networking and getting to know other authors. And you too get embarrassed. Yay.
Yay. Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. I might just do that on my panel. I might just bust out with, okay, raise your hands, authors, if you get embarrassed when listening to your audio files.
Yes. And we all lift our hand.
Yes. I'm like, Pepper, higher.
Yes, that's me. I'll put both hands up.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh yeah. Gotta have fun again. Gotta have fun. Before we go, why don't you tell us what you're currently working on that you can share and what's coming up next for you?
I had a big project this year that was a new kind of office romance that's set in a corporation. And so it's my first series that I've ever taken wide. So it's going out over all the different platforms and has been the one that we've played around with. So there were 5 books that are in this series. And the 4th one is coming out on August the 2nd. So not too long from now. And then there's just one more left. And that is Daddy Searching. And each of them are different people in this corporation. So this story is about the cybersecurity expert. And so it's a fun one. I love it. And then I'm co-writing with Paige Michaels, who is like a beast of a writer. She can do like 5,000 words in a day. I think I write fast, but it's just amazing how quick she can write. And we are having an absolute blast writing these cupcake books that we are doing from the Little Cake series. And all the different books are named after different cupcakes. So the next one coming up is on August 9th, and it's Black Forest. All of these different little cupcakes are just so cute out there. We watch them soar up the charts, and here will be all of these incredibly expensive covers. And there's a little lemon cupcake, or there's a Black Forest cupcake. We're just like, this is the best thing ever. So that we're doing those. For the rest of the year, I've got books kind of all signaled out. I've got some projects for the end of the year, and then I've got a brand new series that I'm working on for next year at the beginning. That is a concept that I don't think has been done. So I'm super excited by it. And it is kind of a second chance romance. The series is called A Second Chance for Mr. Right. And so those will be coming out, and they have the absolute most beautiful covers I have ever seen that are being designed. So I love them. And some really hunky guys, which is fun. This ABC Towers series of all the business romances was my first that I invested in exclusive covers, exclusive photos for covers. And so all of my neighbors are like, when are you choosing your next cover? Can we come over and help you choose? I'm like, no, you cannot come help me look through all these pictures. We would be here for days on end as we're looking for pictures.
It's a tough job, people.
It's a tough job. It's a horrible, tough job. So, but it's fun. We have one of the covers. It has Kevin R. Davis on it. I don't know if you know him. He is like the what's become the silver fox kind of image, and the nicest man ever. He is going to be going to Shameless BookCon here in Orlando with me. That will be my first time that I've ever taken a model to a book convention. Book conference.
I was on the fence about going, but if you're going to be there, girl,
I am there. You should so come. Yes, and you can take a picture with Kevin R. Davis, which will be fun.
I'm sure he's lovely, but I'm more like, Pepper.
Yes, please come see me. I would love that. So yeah, that's my very last conference of the year. By that time, we'll be, in the short run, ready to go home and have everything all done. But it's fun. So there's always lots of stuff. People ask me if I ever run out of ideas, and I'm like, no, because I don't really know where they come from to begin with. So somehow I can always come up with a new one, So I've got this next series all lined out, and already my mind is starting to think of the next one. So we will see what happens.
Oh, you're all set, and so are we as listeners. This is fantastic.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. So I get to hang out with you at Allure, and I get to hang out with you again at Shameless.
Yes, that would be great. I'd love it.
Yeah, it'd be fun. I promise I won't do anything like lava floor, lava
floor. And I'm standing on my desk, and on my chair, on my table, wherever I am.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'll be good.
I'm sure there's a drink, something lava. We could just make the floor is lava into a new drink. That'll be good.
Well, speaking, I was going to ask if once this series with the cupcakes is done, are you guys thinking of doing like a cookbook based off of the cupcakes in the series?
That is such a good idea. And we discussed it when we first started, if we should, for each one of the cupcakes that came out, add a cupcake with it. And, we hadn't done that. We did, in conjunction with this, come up with an adult style coloring book that are all different cupcakes that are amazingly intricate to color. And that has been a huge success. People have loved that as kind of a companion piece to this. But I have a feeling probably the cupcake cookbook is going to happen just because it's such a great idea and would be fun to do.
You can also do an accompanying cocktail themed after the cupcakes.
Yum. I'm all for that. That's good. I could just live on cocktails and cupcakes.
Okay, so why not? Yeah, I think readers and listeners love when that happens, especially when there's part of a series and then they're like, oh, then we get to cook, or they're re-listening to it. They'll have a cocktail with it. Those are always fun. So,
yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Pepper, for taking the time to hang out with me today. It's been so much fun.
I've enjoyed getting to know you. Thank you for inviting me to come join you.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to September so we can hang out in Allure and then again later. And we do live in the same state, not that far from each other. So between stuff, we'll have to kind of get together, maybe have some fun with those recipes.
Connect. Yes, I love it.
Yeah. And if you ever do need help with the models, let me know with the photos.
Thank you. You're such a giver.
I am. It's all about you guys. Yeah. We'll be including all your information, including links to your social media on the main post for this episode over at Viviana, Enchantress of Books. So you guys can follow her and find her and start adding those books to your list if you haven't already done so. So until next time, happy listenings. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our Audiobook Lovin Podcast Patreon. Special thanks to Nixley Zenner, Carol Liebner, Brittany Robinette Leiter, Michelle Bastard,
Brandy Schmidt, April Branson.
The Audiobook Lovin Podcast has special Patreon access levels. Join today to receive benefits including early access to episodes, shout-outs, special exclusive content, and much more. Support the podcast by becoming a Patreon at www.patreon.com/audiobooklovin. We thank you for your support.
Thank you for joining us on the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, hosted by Viviana, Enchantress of Books. For links and more information discussed in today's episode, previous podcasts, or the Audiobook Lovin Series, please visit our website, vivianaenchantressofbooks.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a positive review wherever you listen to our podcast. Until next time, happy listening.